Hey, everybody. Today I'm joined by Brad Greiner, the founder and CEO of Open Air Homes. He spent more than 10 years building a luxury short term and monthly rental company known for its design, hospitality, and high touch service for both guests and homeowners. In this episode, we're going to get into how his business actually runs day to day, the communication challenges that come with managing premium properties, and how he thinks about using technology and AI internally while still keeping a human first experience on the customer side. Brad, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Daniel. We had a little pre-chat ahead of this, and I really look forward to our conversation. We have so many interests that are aligned. So I'm excited to speak with you about this.
Likewise. Really looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be great for the listeners. And to get us started, how did Open Air Homes get started? And what gap in the market were you trying to solve in the beginning?
Yeah, so I grew up in a entrepreneurial family. My dad started his own business, and so that was kind of always in the back of my mind. But I sort of also knew that like don't just start a business for the sake of starting a business because that's just I know so many people that do this. It just wasn't really my thought process. And so what ended up happening is I owned a home in the Hollywood Hills. We listed one room for rent on Airbnb because it was new. It wasn't really necessarily to make money. And then there came a moment, maybe about 4 or 5 months after that, where there were some challenges financially, and I was considering like, okay, how am I going to afford this mortgage? It was a big house, and so I put it for rent on Airbnb, the entire home. And this was sort of probably towards the beginning of Airbnb, and I don't think there were too many people just doing whole home rentals. There were a few definitely, but like a friend of mine that's this artist designed the house. He's Italian. It was just this like very very cool home, and we just put it for rent. And I think I got the pricing entirely wrong at first. I put it at like maybe $600 a night, and then all of a sudden you have a full calendar right away, and these people are coming to your house and just offer me briefcases of cash, and just like it was weird the first few months and years. But then that's kind of how it started. And I wasn't even really thinking about growing a company at that point. I still had a job. I was working. And then really when it started to become an actual company was a guest stayed at our house, had such a great experience. They ended up buying a home and they said, do you want to manage it? And that home's still on our platform today. I have a great relationship with them. This is a relationship-based business. And it started to kind of grow from there. And so now, we grew for word of mouth for about the first 10 years. And then in the past 2 years, we've really started to take off with just like organic leads on the internet. So the past few months, especially, it's just started to get very busy. I think we're onboarding about 10 homes at the same time right now, which is big for a company of our size.
Yeah. And just so our listeners can kind of understand a little bit more about your business, how many clients day to day do you deal with?
Well, so we have two sets of clients. We have homeowners and then we have guests. We have about 75 to 85 homeowners that we manage their homes, but they live in them for part of the year. So at any given time, we have about 50 homes that are for rent. Right now, at least that's the case. And then the other side is we have guests. And so the guests staying in our home, I have a hospitality director. She's handling the majority of that. And then we have a whole team underneath them that are working on reservations and stuff and just guest needs. And what I've seen in this space is like quick communication is the most critically important thing. So as I sit here on this podcast with you, I'm not thinking about the day-to-day operations of the guests in our home. I'm more focused on the homeowners and building a quality portfolio. And I have a great team of people around me that can kind of handle the property management, the hospitality, and everything like that.
Yeah, no, I think having a great team around you is very key. Curious, I guess, how important do you find that aspect of like really hiring the right people towards really setting you up for success?
Yeah, if I really think about it, I've had great people over the years. The industry was in chaos for a number of years. It grew too fast. Like Airbnb took off like crazy. I mean, now they're one of, they're a publicly listed company. They're doing extremely well. There were a number of years that were chaos across the entire industry because basically you asked all these new people to learn how to run a hotel or a hospitality business overnight. And so I've had great people forever. It's just there was just chaos in the industry and so many things needed to be worked out. And I think finally now, through all the work we've done and everything we've learned and kind of changed how we, our tech stack and everything that we do, um, now we have great people mixed with just standard day-to-day practices that are just like kind of industry wide, plus like a great tech stack that keeps us organized. And then that combination has been really helpful to have a really good team of people. Plus, just like everybody knows their role, they know what they're doing, and there's just like no chaos at all. Which is, I mean, like, listen, it happens at the Marriott Hotel. Like, they get a guest in that's chaotic and is causing issues and stuff. You're never not going to deal with that, but we have like standard operating procedures for everything that could happen. So I can sit here or I can go to bed at night and not think like, oh, what happens if someone gets locked out at 2 a.m. Like, there's a strategy and there's something in place to make sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. Having those processes in place definitely makes things a lot easier when these instances come about. And I guess, what turning point made you decide to focus on luxury properties rather than operating at other levels of the market?
Yeah, I would say we sort of, my first home was in luxury. So it sort of just like is what set us up for that. And I think for myself over the years, I've realized like there are some companies that are only doing these mansions, like new money mansions, with Lamborghinis in the driveway and just like good for them. But that's not really what we do. And so like we are in luxury, but like I think we're in attainable luxury. You know, we're also not, we're willing to take on homes at a lower price point because like my theory is like income inequality keeps getting worse in this country. And if I don't just want to work for, the 1% and the 0.01% and manage their assets and make them more money. And, listen, that's good for them if that's what they want to do. But so we're working with people that are like building their own version of the American dream, which is they want to live in two cities. They might have family back on the East Coast. So they want to live there 6 months out of the year and then live here 6 months out of the year. So this is really what we're offering to people. And when I look back, if I look at all my homeowners, everyone's achieving their version of what this American dream is. And they're living the lifestyle that they want to live. And we just manage their home when they're not here. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question exactly, but, I went on a tangent on like, yeah, so we're not fully in luxury, but we do have homes that are, I think if anyone would probably look at these numbers and the nightly rates, it is luxury for sure. But I do see a value in making sure that we're also offering, affordable, like good value for your money homes for people as well.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And that makes me remember. So I used to live in Miami, as I mentioned, and so often, there's people that are in Miami that kind of flex on this lifestyle that they're super rich and all this stuff to like get more followers, or maybe they're selling courses, and part of their audience they want to convince them that they're rich and famous and all that. How often do you see people renting homes that are kind of doing it to like film music videos or like pretend like it's their luxury home versus just like someone renting it for vacation?
Yeah, I would say, the majority of it are vacation with what we do. Cause like, our homes are, they're unique and they're one of a kind and they feel like true homes as opposed to like, I know the companies that are just managing these like mansions, like I'm saying with, you know, their marketing is around, renting a Lamborghini with it and doing this and this and this. That's not really what we're doing. We're interested into a lot of like families and stuff like that. We have tried to do these influencer partnerships before with the pretty girls that wear the bikinis and stuff like that. It never converts into rentals for us. And, I'm sure if we had like Kim Kardashian staying, and like it would lead to rentals, but yeah, we don't really deal with that. Or if we do, they're really secret about it and we never really hear about it. As long as they're not really disrupting the neighborhood, it's not really too much of my concern. Yeah, funny story. Had one homeowner that we had one of the most famous artists, music artists, staying in the home, and was recording her album, and took one photo for her Instagram, and the homeowner wanted to charge her because she said that was marketing, and we need to charge her. She wanted to charge her $5,000 to take a photo inside her home, and it's like I don't know. I just think that we all have phones now. We all have cameras. We're all, that's how we live our lives. That's probably where things went awry with that homeowner. But it's like, I can't go to this person that's paying $3,000 a night to stay in your home. All this has been approved that she can write her album here. Like, what you want to collect now because she took an Instagram photo? Like, that's just crazy to me. Maybe. I mean, well, I don't know. What do you think about that? Should she really be able to collect if she rented her home for somebody taking a photo inside her home?
It's interesting. I mean, my perspective is if, they already rented and, the homeowner already agreed to them doing whatever they want in the home, obviously as long as they respect it and, don't damage anything. I don't think it's fair game for them to just go and say, "Oh, they're a famous person. Oh, let's charge them 5 grand." So I think you
Yeah.
handled it the right way, and for the future, if that homeowner wants to, you know, protect all their rights and all that more in terms of charging celebrities or people that film, I guess they need to make that clear prior to the contracts being signed or anything.
Yeah, and the other thing is what I tell some homeowners is like you are not mentally ready to rent out your house. You're giving up control of a house that you maybe built or designed or whatever it is. Like you have to be ready to see this asset as a monetizable asset as opposed to this place where your kids grew up and you have all these memories. And some people just can never get over that hurdle. And in the sales process of taking on management of new homes, I'm looking for those homeowners that are like crazy because you know you have to share it if you're going to do this. Like it is yours, you own it, but you are agreeing to share it for a set dollar nightly rate. And some people just really can't get over that hurdle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you've obviously seen a lot for being in the space for more than a decade, managing high end homes. I guess what are the biggest operational lessons that you've learned along the way?
I would say that the biggest operational lesson that we've learned is just a home has a million small parts and things can go wrong all the time. And so preventative maintenance has become like critically important to our business. Um, you know, at the same time, guest expectations are getting higher than ever, but as an industry as a whole, they're super low. And what I mean by that is like so many people go back to like the first 10 years of this, everyone was figuring out what they were doing. So many people have stayed with like a mom and pop and it went terribly wrong. And then all of a sudden you're getting in a fight with your host. And then you choose not to rent again for 10 years and you just stay in hotels. But then all of a sudden you're like, I'm going on a family vacation. I want all of our family to be together. I'm going to try it one more time. So oftentimes they're coming to us with like, have had such a bad experience. And so for those people, it's very easy. It's like, if the home is clean and well maintained and like looks like the photos, like they're pretty much going to be happy no matter what. And then there's the other side of it, which, you have these travelers that are really only using Airbnb now. And, I'll equate it to like Uber drivers in that like 10 years ago when you got in an Uber, like they didn't have water, they didn't have a charger for your car, they didn't have anything. And now you get in some of these like new decked out Ubers and they understand the value of reviews. And it's like, do you want candy? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? They just like offer you everything because they realize that those reviews are so important. And so, you have a traveler as well that has extremely high expectations. And so, if I think about like the operational challenges, it's matching people's expectations. End of the day, we're not a hotel. And so if we have an in-ground jacuzzi, if you didn't ask for that to be heated ahead of time, like I'm not just going to heat it up 24/7. But like you expect this to be like a hotel, but I don't have 100 guests that want to use that jacuzzi. I have one, and you might want to use it or you might not. And I care about the environment. So I'm not going to just heat my jacuzzi year round because you might want to step foot in it. And the moment you do, you want it warm. This is a live example. I'm mad. This has recently just happened to us. And it's like, is this really what you expect? And if it is, you should have told us that ahead of time. So you're just dealing with like a mismatch of like expectations and reality. And that some people really think that it should be exactly like a hotel. And it's like, it's not exactly like a hotel. And I think that that's like irrational to think that like, I'm just going to have my jacuzzi, heated year round just so that you can get in a warm jacuzzi the moment that you want it warm. Like that to me seems crazy. You agree? Does that seem a little
I
crazy?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that like there's certain people where their expectations are just above and beyond what would still be considered great service from the company. So I 100% agree, and that kind of makes me think like I guess in terms of all these guest expectations, how does your team actually handle the volume of all the guest questions before, during, and after someone's stay?
Yeah, so we have centralized communication with, we use a system called HostAway. We were with Guesty before that. I really like HostAway's user interface. It's just really helpful for our team. Probably about 8 years ago now, I started to have a virtual team based in the Philippines and Kenya and India. Um, so we have a virtual team that helps with a lot of just like the guest communication day to day. There's this huge push of like customer service can be done by AI, and like we were testing it out for a while, but like that doesn't really work for me right now, especially when guests are mad. Like if they think they're speaking to an AI, it just makes things 10 times worse. And so, um, by having this team that's based internationally, they're just strictly on their computer, frees up time for our property managers and for our hospitality director, and just for our team to be able to do the things that are local. So many of our competitors will come in with like very low commission rates, but they're like based out of Colorado and then or wherever, and they'll just rely on a cleaning team to handle everything. But my sense is like if you really want to do this well, you need more than just a cleaner walking through there. You need somebody that like is looking at the property, doing the maintenance, and really just kind of like doing this well. So that's one of the things that like challenges that I face is just like so many people, anybody can start a business in the short-term rental space. Like anybody can do it, but doing it well is much harder. And so you'll have these people with these very valuable assets that for one reason or another need more and more money, so they'll agree to work with a company at 10% commission, but like I really wish them well, and that's really not what we do. And you're probably going to have a 4.5 star or lower, and your occupancy rate is going to be at 60 instead of some of our homes which are at like 80 to 95, and you're actually going to make way less money. But yes, you save 10% on your commission, but like you're making actually way less money, and you're just stressed out all the time because you're dealing with a team that's like not even local. So I hope that business model dies. I don't know if it will, but like I would imagine that these companies that are like not actually physically present, they're they're realizing over time that their homes begin to fall apart, and there's really no coming back from that.
Yeah, reputation is so important in this space, probably, right? So, um,
I don't really know if, I mean, yeah, I agree with you, but like they're still in existence. They're still doing what they're doing. They can capture these new homeowners with these really low rates, and maybe that business model works, and maybe they'll figure it out. It's just like if I look at the vision in the future of my company, like I like to make guests happy. Our jobs as a company are 100 times easier when you're dealing with all happy guests. All of a sudden, one week something will go wrong. We got a ton of rain, and all of a sudden, like four different guests are upset about things. Like it becomes stressful for my team. Whereas when you're dealing with happy people, you're dealing with happy messages, and like it's just so easy. But then when
yeah,
it's not, it's very, very hard. And I can even imagine, we hired somebody that I poached them from a company where they were dealing with just the day to day stress of unhappy people always. And I think coming to work here, it's a higher quality of life because, you know, 95% of the time our guests are happy.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important to have that happiness not only for your employees but for the guests. It just makes everyone's life easier. And I guess in terms of the homeowner side, what are some of the kind of most common communication needs that come from the homeowner side?
I would say mostly after they're signed on the platform, it's like occupancy and nightly rate, and how do we find this right balance based off of what their goals are and what they want. So, we're dealing oftentimes with like homeowners that want the highest nightly rate and they want the highest occupancy, but sometimes you got to lower the nightly rate to really actually make you a higher net revenue. And so that's a lot of the conversations. Oftentimes it's like strategy. If it's coming to me, it's more strategy. It's more like, okay, Palm Springs is dropping from 36 rentals per year to 26 rentals per year. What does that mean for our business? We're allowed to take 26 rentals per year in Palm Springs starting next year. We need to lower the we need to increase the weekly discount so that we're encouraging people to book for longer stays. Because if you just take a bunch of 2 and 3 night rentals, you're not even making nearly enough money to even cover a portion of your mortgage and your expenses on your home. So it's a lot of that, you know, and then hopefully it's like referrals where they're just like, hey, things are going so well. I'm introducing you. And like, I love those emails too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as open air home grows, what parts of communication or support, or I guess just generally, what parts of the business are the hardest for you to scale?
I think historically for us, it's been the portfolio because if I think about it, it's like, we can't just say yes to everybody. Like I think in my early days, I was saying yes to a lot more people because I wanted to grow the business. And then you get to a certain size and you sort of realize like me saying yes to you is actually going to be a huge headache. Like I said this the other day to a homeowner, like they designed it like a terrible, terrible Airbnb. And I know for a fact in Silver Lake, it's not going to rent. It's, you're not going to take rentals for the cool kids, the hipsters that live in Silver Lake with your design. And so you're completely mismatched. And so, for a home like that, maybe this email basically drags her away or sends her off to somewhere else. But I basically said to succeed at your property, you're going to need to invest $30,000. We can refer out a designer and everything. But so I've just gotten much better personally at knowing, at just like trusting my gut instinct of like, is this going to be a good guest experience or not? Because reviews are what drives the success of our portfolio. And I think by sticking to that standard now, for a long time we weren't. And we've kind of like gotten rid of all those homes that were sort of the problem child. And now what we're presenting visually for most people that like find us, they're like, this is exactly what I want because it matches my home. So it just sort of starts to grow because of that. And so I feel like we're in a really fortunate position that we're able, it's not like we're presenting like the $100 white box of a terrible apartment with like the $3,000 a night home. Like everything's kind of in line. There's a range of prices, but it really allows us to grow in the direction that makes sense for us as a result.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know you mentioned, in our previous chat using AI behind the scenes and really helping your business with technology. What parts of your internal workflow benefit the most from AI and automation right now?
And I want to hear more about you with AI too, because I'm still learning a lot. The industry is changing every day. Um, I got really big into ChatGPT really right when it started. At one point, I was paying the $200 a month. I've scaled back to the 20 just because I don't necessarily know what benefit the $200 a month is doing. But for a while, I was using it so much that it made sense. But really, it's allowed me almost to feel superhuman in the sense that as a small business, like I think now is the best time ever to start a small business. And the reason is because you can be superhuman and you can do so much in any given day. And so what I'm doing is like, if I think about like where it's helping me the most is like really with sales. I had 7 leads the other day for homeowner management. In one day, we used to get like 2 a week, and I'm able to have conversations with people and then like put together a very comprehensive email to them, you know, fairly quickly, whereas that would take me hours before if I wanted to do the proper research. And so we're just like a well-oiled machine. So we're using partially humans, we're using a lot of data, and we're able to kind of get people the results that, not the results, but like the information that they need to make a calculated decision of like whether or not it makes sense to list with us.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that that balance between obviously we're always, I think, going to need humans for a lot of these tasks, but also how much can the actual AI help the human be better at their job, more efficient, and ultimately, provide a better customer experience, right? Especially in your space. I think
Yeah.
that those aspects are very important to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I'm curious about your opinion about this. Like now that we're entering a world where everybody, you can send an email that's very clearly written by ChatGPT, but you can kind of have it come off like it's yours. Like sending these massive long emails, like at some point, I think people look at this if they're working on a day to day basis, and they're like, obviously this is AI slop that you're just sending me to make it look like you're sending me such a deep and thoughtful proposal. But at the same time, like if I want to succeed at home, I need to send a deep and thoughtful proposal. And so, I have projects built out into ChatGPT where I can like either voice to text or like right after a meeting, I can speak to it and then it'll put together this very thoughtful proposal. But I guess my question for you is like, as we enter this world where putting that together can take a few seconds, like do people like receive that and then they think to themselves like, this is just AI slop? Like, are you thinking about that through that lens? Like, are people starting to get to a place where they're just like, this is just like nonsense?
For sure. Yeah. I think ultimately it's still at the end of the day, AI that's providing the output. So we have to massage it to make it sound more like us. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, what I recommend to folks is to upload their writing style into ChatGPT, for example, and be like, hey, this is how I write. This is how I like to respond to certain tasks or questions, or provide my feedback. Keep that in mind as you craft emails on my behalf, for example. And then it'll analyze your style, and then it'll be better at kind of, communicating in your style. But also, like, I think, we should always proofread even results like that. Like, if you say, make it sound more like me, and then, we still need to proofread that. Oftentimes you know, um, bolds certain text. I don't know if you noticed that.
All the time.
Yeah, and it uses those kind
Hidden
of
dashes.
longer dashes. Yeah. So if you tell the ChatGPT, for example, if that's the LLM that you're using to specifically not say that and make it sound less like AI, that's also going to be helpful. Um, but I agree. I think it's just a matter of like telling our employees and teaching them to still proofread and massage whatever output the AI provides to make it, more realistic.
Yeah, 2 points to that. So like when I first started using ChatGPT, it got to a place where like sometimes I wasn't even checking and I was just like forwarding it off. And I've just learned that that's just not human and not really helpful. And so I've really stopped doing that. And there's one point in time where this homeowner dropped us, but she was such a problem homeowner. And this email sat in my inbox forever of her like the follow up to her dropping us and all these details. And like, listen, were some of the things she was saying correct? For sure. But I just like couldn't mentally deal with it because this woman was a Karen. Her name was Karen.
No way.
Anyways, and so really this what ChatGPT did in that case is like I took her latest response and I just told my ChatGPT, I'm like, I'm not even going to read this. Like, put together a nice response that basically says like, thank you so much for your years of working with us, and I wish you well. And I copied and pasted and I just sent it off because I was just like, I can't put up with any more of just like the constant need for micromanaging of every single thing. And like, listen, did we get everything right? No, there were moments in time where my business was chaotic, but like, yeah. So, for some reasons, like that's the one example I have where I'm just like, I put it together, I sent it off. And then the other thing you said that I thought about was like when ChatGPT pulls out an entire response based off of what I say, I'll put it into email, I'll edit it and I'll correct it how I want it. And then I'll typically copy and paste that back into ChatGPT of like, here's the final response that I want you to know so that you can get better and to do this over time. Every once in a while out of nowhere, it'll just like completely, like, I don't know if you feel this way about ChatGPT lately, but it'll be like, are you just stupid today? Like, did you just like wake up on the wrong side of bed? And all of a sudden out of nowhere, it'll be like 5.1. It'll be like, what, like we've been doing this for so long now. How did you get so bad all of a sudden? So, you have to check it. Like, it's not right. It's 80 to 85% of your work, which is incredible. But like going into it thinking it's 100% of your work, you're going to piss off some people that read it. Like we had a homeowner reach out to us and be like, she was really mad about something and she had a right to be mad about it. And like my virtual team just like, instead of saying like, okay, we'll get better, thank you so much for the feedback, they drafted this 17 paragraph response. And she responded like, no fucking AI, no fucking AI when I'm mad at you. And so, and then, she was right though. Like people don't want to hear an AI response when you're mad at them. Like they want you to take like personal responsibility for like what it is.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's I know a lot of people are afraid AI is going to take their jobs and everything, and I think that it's reasonable to think that, but it's just not there yet that it can truly automate a person. I think it can definitely automate certain repetitive tasks well, but to fully completely replace a human, that would be difficult depending on what the job is.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think about like how do I market around this because like I do want our guests that are in our home knowing that they're speaking to a human. I think it builds empathy both ways too. And if I think about our virtual team, this is literally not their fault and not their country's fault, but they grew up in like let's say the 90s, a lot of them learning very formal English because they wanted to prepare themselves for this like world in which we're living in, and there's a lot of people, a lot of countries around the world that train English very formally, but oftentimes that formal English can come across very AI, and so
Yeah.
I've been thinking about how do we make it clear to all of our guests that no, there is a human being on the other side of this. You are not just speaking to an AI. And so we're really, that's one of the things we're thinking about in terms of hospitality, because I think it really does come down to valuing and respecting our guests' time. And, every guest is different. Everyone's perspective on AI is different, but a lot of them remember like these terrible chatbots from like 10 years ago. And like, they don't want to speak to that, that's just wasting their time. So these are the things we're kind of thinking about as a business.
Yeah, no, I think those are definitely the right parts to think about. And I guess what would an ideal future communication system look like for open air homes if you could blend human service with the right kind of automation?
We're already using it quite a few automations. Like the moment a reservation is booked, like we're using automations. We're not doing everything manually, so that's already helped us tremendously. Um, for me, a future solution would be, and this is probably coming through our host away site. I think there were different companies that were like launching versions that you could pay for, but that a guest could respond, and through our brand language, it crafts a response, but it never actually sends it, and then has a human review it before it sends. Um, that to me is sort of like, I think also we have to adapt as AI is adapting, in that like I'm not ready to fully trust it yet. I'm not ready, like we're saying about this, like it gets it wrong oftentimes. And so if I think about our communications, that's probably this is the first time I'm really thinking about this, but like we have a company called Open Phone, which handles all of our SMS and phone calls. Um, we're still like having a human do these things, but um, I would say that in the very near future, they're probably going to launch a product that's going to just type a response. So then when I go to Open Phone and Esmeralda says, "Would you like to meet at 11 or 12 tomorrow?" It's going to be able to check my calendar and be like, 11 a.m. would be preferable for me instead of 12. Just like pulling live things that just happened that I had to respond to. But those things are probably coming in the near future, and that's like a step forward for me before you just kind of like give over entire automation to this, because maybe I mentally made plans with my friend Layla to have lunch at 11, but it's not in my calendar, and then all of a sudden my AI books 11, and then all of a sudden it screws everything up, right? So I think that's, if I think about the AI that would be needed, it's not crafting and sending the message. It's crafting the message and having it. I don't even have to ask for it to be crafted. It just knows that the moment a message comes in, it just crafts the response, and then I can edit it from there.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is this one of the things that is this industry? Is this what the industry is thinking about?
Specifically about like getting the AI to craft the message for you.
Yeah, and not having to click a button for it to craft it. Like it would be so good if in Hostaway a guest responds and then it just like instantly shows the message of what they think that you're going to want to respond here.
For sure, yeah, and we're definitely seeing a lot more of that, specifically with like agents. So you can build agents fairly easily now. Obviously, it depends on the complexity, but using tools like N8N or Make.com, you could essentially have it where like if a response comes in through there, have ChatGPT you know come up with a response by also looking through your entire database of FAQs and typical responses so that it leverages something more than just the regular ChatGPT database. It actually pulls something that's more custom towards your business.
Yeah, and this is why your clients should work with you because like one of the things that I'm seeing is like I get outreach 10, 15 times per day of like a new AI startup that's happening. And there's so much noise because everyone realizes it's going to be big. And so everyone's trying to start the next, OpenAI or Google or whatever. And for me personally, it's like I don't have enough time to go in and research. Like those two companies, NAN, I've never even heard of that. And what was the second one?
Make.com.
Make.com. Like, the funny thing is it's like Make.com could have reached out to me and I would have been like, what is this? This is like another AI startup, And so these things are coming and it's just, there's so much noise though, that like, it's hard to know even who to trust in terms of what to build because I've tried chat-based, I've tried into AI and like all these people have great intentions. And I liked to be on the forefront of it because I was excited to see what they were building and like the process of how they were building it. But then, in actual use, at least when we started, it was like, wait, this is just not working for us. And so, yeah, that's what I'm seeing in the space. There's just so much noise because there's so much excitement about it and there's so much capital going into it. But it's very hard to know like which companies are actually like moving the needle and which ones are just kind of here to waste your time.
Yeah, you definitely said it well. There's definitely a ton of noise in the space, and rightfully so, right? I mean, there's like you said, so many people trying to start businesses in the sector, but yeah, it's definitely important to have the right advisors and folks kind of guiding you through the process. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of great tools like N8N and Make.com that can build these agents to help businesses really automate a lot of their workflows. And to that point, I guess if you could wave a magic wand, Brad, what's one aspect of your business that you would wish to automate?
Well, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we tried to set up Salesforce, and the person that was setting it up is like, "This is going to automate everything, and it's going to be the most amazing thing ever." And we spent an insane amount of money, an insane amount of time, and then it was absolutely terrible. And I'm not saying that Salesforce can't be great. I'm sure it can be. I know they're launching their own agent force, whatever. But it didn't work for us, and it actually made our jobs harder. And so, you know, I'm I'm currently at the wait and see approach, which is like we're using these things, they're working very well for us, we're growing like crazy. I've learned to not come in and just like disrupt my entire business and tell everyone like today you have to use NAN and we're using it now from now on. And it's like things are so operationally smooth and we have a good enough size team to like handle everything that's happening that I'm sort of at a wait and see approach. And probably it's going to be having more conversations like this where, I'll start testing it and I'll start to like look at these things that you're mentioning. And then I'll be like, oh, wait, I think I can build this and this is going to work and just like test it in a small way. But, I think back to what I was saying, and one of my investors said this to me. We raised a tiny bit of money. He said, "You're so lucky that you're in a business that's like you need humans to do a great job at what it is that you do. There's so much that's happening right now that they think can be replaced by humans, and it's like there's not going to be a robot anytime in the near future that's going to be able to do property management of a home. Like it's just not to like actually have the home. I know these robots for your home are coming supposedly, but like I just don't trust it to come in and be like, oh wait, these things we need to trim these trees and we need to do this. It's just like these require human things. And so, for me, it's freeing up the humans' time so that they can really do what humans are great at. And so I think that that's really, if I could wave a magic wand, it's kind of like the combination of those two things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I think definitely the combination of having humans work with AI and technology is the right solution. And I guess for our listeners, Brad, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you if they want to?
I don't have social media, but you can reach out at openairhomes.com openairhomes.com or openairhomes on Instagram. And my team is good at forwarding me things, so I'll get it. I don't have social media for myself because it just makes me sad. So it's just be scrolling all day. So yeah, I think, but yeah, you can reach out to my company and they'll get in touch with me. And listen, I like talking to people that are starting businesses in this space. Part of the reason I'm doing these podcasts is I've sort of learned that like I put my head down and worked for 10 years to do this. And so, we're still in need of making our industry better. There still is a lot of these scam artists and just like weirdos that are like, trying to extract from humanity by what they do. And like, listen, if you, it's a lot of hard work in hospitality and in the service industry, but like, if this is your calling and something you're interested in, like reach out and I'm happy to talk to them about, answer more questions that they have about starting a business or whatever. And like I said, I think this is the best time ever to start a business. Is it going to succeed? Only time will tell and hard work, but like you now have so many tools that keep your operations extremely lean. Like it's just, there has never been a more incredible time to do that. If you're sick of working for somebody, that's all possible. And then, reach out to Daniel and he's going to tell you like, okay, use these 10 tools and you're probably just set up and you really just need a very small team to make this work. So I think it's a very exciting time through that framework.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think it's definitely a great time to start businesses, automate a lot of things in the business already to make things more lean. Brad, thank you so much for coming on the show. Congrats on everything you've been able to accomplish thus far, and looking forward to seeing all the future success of the company and yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. It was great to be here.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.